Thanks, Saskia and Corla. A just transition is vital to climate action. Without an assurance of social justice, workers' rights and commitments to address poverty, any environmental measures run the risk of furthering social and economic inequalities. The amendments in my colleague Deputy Whitmore's name and similar ones that include a stronger and more nuanced definition of just transition should be enthusiastically supported by the government. I cannot think why anyone would oppose a clear definition of a fair transition in the legislation, not to mind a bill being championed by the Green Party. Social and environmental justice have to go hand in hand. There will need to be significant societal and economic transformation if we are to have any chance of playing our part in addressing the climate and biodiversity crisis. These transformations present considerable challenges and opportunities. It is essential that the state commits to shielding and supporting communities from the potential upheaval caused during the transition. Sectors and communities that depend on fossil fuels will need support to move to more sustainable sources in their homes, farms, businesses and transport. People want to be more sustainable, but they need help in making those necessary changes. We need progressive measures to support low-income households and rural areas. A carbon tax is a necessary tool to reduce emissions, but it will only work if there are alternatives in place. Poor and non-existent public transport in rural areas and a lack of active travel infrastructure means people have no choice but to use cars. It does not matter how expensive petrol and diesel are, they will still need cars. Without alternatives, carbon taxes are merely punitive and help build up resentment and anti-climatic science rhetoric. We need schemes that support workers in moving to new types of employment centred on low carbon. We need carbon taxes to fund retrofitting homes proactively, not reimbursing those who can afford it, but upfront paying for retrofitting, whether people own their homes or are in social housing. We need to reinstate funding for the development of recycling centres and expand the number so there is at least one civic amenity centre close to the population it is meant to be serving, and those centres should be free for recyclable materials. In agriculture, we need far, far more ambitious schemes that foster sustainable practices. We need to move away from an intensive farming model that demands farmers produce more and more for less and less, all the time eroding the quality of the land. Farms need support in doing this. Policies across many governments have pushed for a more intensive model for years, and farmers are still losing out. We need to flip that around. Farmers need to be incentivised to protect the landscape the future of the industry depends on. From recognising the carbon sequestration capacity of so-called marginal land, rewarding forestry planting and biodiversity enhancement. Earlier today, I highlighted the limits placed on the Rural Environmental Agri-Pilot Project, or REAP scheme. It excluded more farmers than it supported, and it did not recognise the value of gorse and heather areas. We need these schemes to be ambitious and innovative. There's a kind of constant, very damaging false narrative around farming and climate change, and a lot of that comes from this House. Politicians vigorously defending farmers insinuates that they have personally done something wrong, and nothing could be further from the truth. I don't know any farmer who actually goes about their everyday business in an attempt to release as many emissions as possible or to destroy as much biodiversity as possible. Government policy directly incentivises how we farm. For example, a department official comes out to My Farm every year and docks us money off the area aid payment wherever we don't have livestock on the land. The perception that farmers desperately want to stock more and more livestock units to the hectare is just quite frankly ridiculous. Again, I've never met anybody who goes about their day-to-day business like that, trying to stock more and more cattle per hectare and import more and more feed from the other side of the world. Government politicians saying things like climate action will decimate Irish farms blatantly pits farmers against science and environmentalists, and the very sad result of that narrative is that the communities that will be most affected by climate change are the ones most scared of climate action. We welcome climate action legislation, but it is disappointing that such a ridiculously short period of time was left for people to submit amendments. It is even more disappointing that an even more ridiculously short period of time was given to debating those amendments. We won't get to most of them clearly. And the near absence of a fair transition in the legislation is just beyond disappointing. I implore the government to reconsider and to ensure that there is a clear definition of a just and fair transition added to the bill.
Mágad a theachta, Anis, a theachta Danny